Welcome back, everyone, to R2Cast number 115, which I'm actually glad we said because for the last 5 minutes off camera, I've been trying to work out what time that is, and we don't even know if it's right. I'm pretty sure it's not. So I'm glad I said the right number and didn't say welcome back to 6:45 or whatever. Yeah, good to have you back. I don't know what the last episode was because with Highland Show coming up for us at the time of recording, this will be coming out the day after. We kind of sort of had to get ahead of things because I would probably not be coherent for that weekend, so I don't want to be releasing them then. That'd be a bit embarrassing for everyone. But following in the theme of what this podcast seems to be with Ed and I is one fat man and two very healthy folks. Well, three in one case. Today, we've got a good friend of mine who's a volleyball player. Ross and I have been mates for, I think about 9 years, probably. We'll get into that in a minute. But tell you what, Ross, do you want to say hello first?
Hey guys, how you doing? Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure, man. Looking forward to it. Is 9 years about right?
I think 9 years is about right. I think we were at uni in 2013, so it could be 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh no, you were the year below me. Actually, you're right. Yeah, so 14. Yeah. So 9 years is right. Yeah.
That's sickening how long that has been, isn't it?
It's terrifying.
Do not enjoy that thought at all. I really don't like that. Oh, 10 years, man. Jesus. I feel like 10 years ago I was 9.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Years ago.
Oh, shut up. He was 11 10 years ago. Shut up, Ed. Stupid little dweeb.
Behave. Yeah. Nah, you can go. Me and Wallace will do this.
Yeah, you're not our friend.
I don't want to have to explain things to you.
We were legally allowed to drink in the pub, and you were
quick maths.
13.
Yeah.
12. Man, I don't like this. I feel like we do a free podcast. We realise just how young you are again. I'm like, oh, here we go. Why is he not older? God, that's ridiculous. Well, anyway, Ross, and keeping in the spirit of podcast things, our question from our last guest on the All In podcast, who was Glenn Penlington, who is a current British timber sports champion. Well, at the time of recording, he is. In 5 days, he will be defending that title. His question was, if you won the lottery and you had infinite funds, what would be the first thing you buy? Not everything, the first thing.
Do you know what? I'm going to give a really boring answer. Right now, I would buy a dog. Me and my girlfriend are absolutely dog daft, and we're desperate to get a dog. That would be my answer. It's real boring, but I'd get a dog like that.
What breed?
Now you're asking. If I could have someone with my millions in lottery money to clean up after it and like get hairs and stuff off my couch, I would definitely get like a German Shepherd. I think they're awesome. But I can't be dealing with hairs and like sitting on your couch covered in hairs and like having your clothes covered in hairs. Oh, nah.
I am so with you on that.
Yeah, Holy God. Couldn't agree more. Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Right, so I'm going to ask you again because yours was rubbish last year, and it just led to me bullying my poor mother. What was yours if you an infinite?
I don't see what's wrong with my lawnmower. I do because it's fixed now.
Oh, so it's working.
It's a working lawnmower. So I'm all good that way.
It's never rained. There's been no grass growing.
No, to be fair, it's not been a problem. It's not growing at all. And cows wasn't the option either, was it?
Well, I mean, it's not the option. It's just I just know that's what you want to say. You just want to say more cows, don't you? He's so cute, man. Just cows.
I'd almost go along the same lines as
like
Ross, to be fair. Yeah.
Okay, nice. I like that. What kind would you get? What breed?
Honestly, I'd actually go for like a work type dog. To start with,
sure.
Probably a Kelpie, I think.
Yeah. Like they're like Aussie dogs, right?
Yeah.
Kelpie. Yeah.
Yeah,
they're sick.
I just really like the look of them, and they just seem like really good workers. And everyone's got a collie.
For those that are wondering why I've went quiet, I'm just currently googling what a Kelpie dog is.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Yeah. Nah, they're cool.
Is that the dog that in Up has the collar on it, and it's got the really high pitched voice. Okay.
See, there you go. He's 20. He's 21. He's never seen Up.
That's
what I mean.
First hurdle. There's the door. I'll just take it.
There's going to be references. It's like, oh, have you heard this song, or have you seen that film? Nah, it was 3.
Exactly. Yeah. You're wondering when Up came out. That could be genuinely painful. You can do that. I'll ask the next question. You can work out when Up was out. Do you even know what Up is?
Yeah. It's the guy with the balloons.
The big head.
The balloons in the house.
The balloons is definitely what I jump to normally. We had a kid at my school that looked like Russell. I probably shouldn't say who, actually. I
was going to say.
You're telling me he's got a big head.
This is starting.
Better if you leave it.
Yeah, this is starting.
Leave it, and then they're all wondering. They're all wondering who it is.
Oh God!
It was 2009.
2009. So what age were you?
8.
Good heavens, man. This is painful. Well, we actually haven't. We've probably been doing this for about 10 minutes now. We haven't actually spoken about Ross yet, which is normally what these podcasts are about as the guest. But right.
Try to be.
10 minutes in, Ross. Give us a bit of background about yourself. Who's Ross McKelvey?
So I guess I'd describe myself as I'm a PE teacher, I'm a volleyball player, and I'm a PT/coach for people. In the last year, I've only been a volleyball player and a coach. I've had a year off work to go and sort of, I guess, pursue my dream professionally. So for the last year, I've lived in New Zealand, which is a big culture change when you've pretty much been in Scotland your whole life. But I've coached remotely, I've coached in person in New Zealand, and I've spent a lot of time amongst elite level, way better volleyball players than myself, way better coaches, and kind of, I guess, leveled up my volleyball and my coaching game for the last year. But I guess fundamentally I'm a teacher.
Is that the first time you've left like long periods of time?
Yeah, so I was there for 7 months in total. And yeah, like complete change. Like my girlfriend's from there, but where we were living in New Zealand was new for her. So it was a new place for both of us.
Well, he's never been out of here.
Yeah. Where was that in New Zealand?
A place called Tauranga. It's close on the North Island, close to kind of Auckland is probably the biggest city.
Yeah, I know where you're at. I had a mate that went and played rugby out there actually.
Okay, yeah, that's all it seems to be. I met like 4 or 5 people from the UK in the airport on the way there and the way back, and all of them were either people going out to farm or people going out to play rugby, and that was it. And I feel like that's quite a common thread for sure.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
It's one of my favourite things with this podcast is I always like to see how long it takes Ed to mention rugby.
I think that's a record, to be fair.
I think that's the first time you've spoken. Like proper said a thing.
I mean, what are the chances that you stayed in the place that we went to play rugby at? Like,
so is that like a big place, or is that like a city, or is that?
Tauranga it's a small city. It's like bigger than like Ayr and Stirling, but it's still not like the size. Even like Auckland, I think, is only about the size of Glasgow. Same with Wellington, same with Christchurch, and that's the thing. Like on both islands, there's only 3 cities, and they're all spaced out so dramatically that it's a complete change to the UK, where you drive a couple of hours or an hour in any direction, and you're in a big city, really. Whereas if you want to go to a big city, if you're not in one, you probably have to drive at least 3 hours to get anywhere. And it does feel quite isolating, not even given the fact that you're on an island that isn't close to anything. Like I always used to think it was real close to Australia, but it's not. It's like 5 hours to Australia.
Is it 5 hours? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's not a quick flight, that's for sure.
It's
not like us hopping over to Benidorm.
Yeah, for sure. Which, as we spoke off camera, I've barely ever done that. It's when you were younger, Ross, was like, so, brought up in Scotland. There's normally 2 sports that I guess you'd say Scottish boys are looking at, and it's football and rugby are the main 2 that are pushed. Maybe hockey, but how did volleyball come through for you? How did that happen?
So for me, you're absolutely right. I played loads of football, loads of rugby, and loads of tennis when I was younger. And I was fairly good at them all. I was probably best at football. But I got into volleyball through high school. Like I've always been the taller guy in the year. So like in my year at school, there was me and one other guy who were always kind of head and shoulders above everyone else. And when I went to my secondary school, one of the PE teachers was a Scotland women's international. And it just happened that the school that I went to was like super big on volleyball, and they had after school clubs, they had lunchtime clubs and there was like over 100 kids playing volleyball sometimes in the hall at lunchtime, which is unreal. But it was because there was two PE teachers, one who played for Scotland and one who was just super keen on volleyball. So I think it was literally like my first month at high school. I was like walking down the corridor, and this lady was like, you're going to come to volleyball at lunchtime. And that was how it started. Literally, that was it. I played it a couple of times. I was like, okay, when I first started, and I was kind of just hooked from there. I only really played it recreationally at school, but then as I kind of got older, and I maybe realised that although I was good at football and rugby, I wasn't good enough to pursue it at a higher level. And then kind of a few opportunities came my way to represent Scotland and play some men's Division 1 stuff. And I thought I'd rather be a main player than a bit of a passenger on the football and the rugby pitch.
On on the football and the rugby side, was there a time where you were like, oh, maybe there is a career in this? Was that something you were looking at, or?
So rugby wise, I was like a very okay player, but in an extremely good team. So I probably felt like I could have. I probably felt like I was better than I was. But I had a lot of good players around me, and played with a lot of good players who now have played for Warriors or play for Scotland or whatever. In terms of football, I think there probably was. I played for Celtic pro youth for about a year when I was about 14, which was a cool experience. But I think ultimately, like, I was maybe a little bit big. Like I grew quite early, and although I was good and I was physical and I could read the game well, I think I was still kind of growing into my body. I had a few niggly injuries with my knees, and like my CV and my kind of engine wasn't where it needed to be. But I mean, I guess I'm pretty grateful for that now. I'm not sure I'd have ever wanted to play for Celtic as a massive Rangers fan anyway.
Well, I was exactly what I was going to ask. How was that from that perspective? Because that's always a thing, isn't it? Like, I mean, you're a rugby man, much more in football.
Yeah.
And I'm very much more a football guy. It's a shame I turn up and they think I am the ball, not a player. But anyway, these things happen. Did you see that video I made last week, by the way?
I did. The pregnancy one.
Yeah, did you see that?
No.
Oh, have you not seen it? So we were playing like at Annandale football, and turned up, and the biggest kit was like made for 7-year-old me anyway, and like I was in pain. This was this tight. Like, I'm not exaggerating. I played a full game and I was like, took it off, and it was like I can breathe again.
Compression suit.
Katie got a photo of me at the end, and it's like 11 months pregnant. Like, it's not like 4. Like, and I started putting like eating Messi and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang.
I can't believe how long you went with it.
I think I did 48. It was great fun. Where the hell was I going with this? The thing that I like about rugby much more is like 80 minutes, done, go for a pint. In football, it's like just not a thing, and I hate it. I hate how whatever it is in football, but that's always been a thing. My dad always said, I always wanted to be a footballer. If Celtic offered you whatever, would you have taken it? Now, if Dad's listening, there was no chance of ever being a footballer. But anyway, like, you had that sort of almost chance. How did that feel?
Like, I'm a Rangers supporter because of my family and my dad especially, but he was like so supportive. He was like, this could be like a chance, like obviously a very small chance, but this could be a chance. Like, absolutely go for it. Like, I don't care if it's Celtic or if it's Ayr United. Like, you take that chance if you can. Going back to your point actually about how I think just football makes people crazy. just something to touch on is like, it's, as a PE teacher, you see that from such a young age. It is mental. Like, even the nicest kids who are like so respectful to you and like you can have like a conversation with, see, as soon as you put like a football on the floor, kick it out and blow your whistle to start a game, it's like they turn into a different person. They're like diving to win like free kicks. They're like turning around and like swearing at their classmates, swearing at you as the ref. And it's like, wee man, you're like in S1, chill out. Like, it's all good.
So that
Honestly, honestly, it's like it's such learned behaviour from like watching whoever in the Premier League do it, and it's literally just like monkey see, monkey do. Like, professional footballers are doing this. Like, I'm gonna do this. That's the right thing to do. And honestly, you would not believe, like, it probably happens in like primary school, like younger than I see them, but it is so frightening. And you're right, it's that football like tribe mentality. They just like they go at each other as soon as the word football's mentioned. It's wild.
I find it amazing. Like, I'm so glad this happened. I think that's amazing. Like, oh my god,
right?
I can't believe that.
I was gonna because like that's one of the things that I probably dislike about football the most is the kind of diving and the like trying to get things when you're not actually injured, and watching a football game and they just like tuck and roll for like 6 rolls and they just get a free kick, get up, play on, no problem. But are they allowed to wear football shirts in PE at your school? Because I remember
absolutely not. Like, I think it, as far as I know, that's a pretty kind of across the board thing. If it does happen, like, we're quite good. Like, we've got heaps and heaps of kit, so we just give them like a t-shirt if they try and chance their arm to come in wearing like a Celtic top or Rangers top or whatever, and we just give them other kit. But yeah, it's just like an easy way to avoid problems. Or like, I've seen a couple of occasions where like even just without a football top on, it's like Rangers and Celtic played at the weekend, and if Celtic won, like all the guys who support Rangers are getting abuse in the changing room and like vice versa. And yeah, it's a bit of a cauldron.
Is there anything now? I mean, Ayre's not I don't really know. I don't feel like Ayre is a massive rugby area, but that's not a thing. Like with I don't even know what the Edinburgh club is, but
Glasgow. Glasgow and Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Nah, not at all.
Is it not Glasgow something? Not Warriors.
Glasgow Warriors.
And Edinburgh doesn't have a name. Oh, it's just Edinburgh Rugby. That's crazy.
It's not at all. Like, there's no there's a kind of rivalry, but I wouldn't like. Fans don't hate each other. Like in rugby, like sit next to the opposite fans.
Well, I only found this out last week.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
In football, you need to cage them in.
Literally.
I mean, I think there's a little bit about it. Like, maybe as a generalization, it's possibly the types of people that a lot of the time go to each game. Like, I mean, if you go to like Twickenham or Murrayfield, everyone's sitting, hanging out the back of their Range Rover, eating pheasant and having a glass of champagne. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I did not expect such a great stereotype, Ross. It's just
they're not exactly going to be scrapping outside, but yeah, I mean, I think rugby is definitely better in that respect, and equally, like on the pitch, like everyone's shaking hands, everyone's like respecting the ref. They can have like a discussion. So I think that's quite cool, and that's definitely the way football should be aiming. But yeah, they ultimately need to sort it at professional level before it has any sort of trickle down effect to the kids that I'm seeing. But yeah, honestly, it amazes me how much they take in and just like try and model that behaviour, even in a game that literally does not matter. It's like, right, it's PE period 6 on a Friday. Like, calm down, because we're all going to get to go home in 5 minutes. So,
but I remember it. I mean, you know me now, 10 years, 11 years after school, and like it almost annoys you how uncompetitive I am.
Yeah, I don't get it.
It's just not. There's you got it out. What's it with? And I like proper went for you, but I can't remember what it was. Probably a concert for Young Farmers or something. I like gripped it. So I joined Young Farmers like, I don't know, a year ago. And a few people have been trying to get me to go. And then halfway through the second night, I ran up into the dressing room, like shook head and was like, I'm fucking lower this till I die. And I'm like, where did this come from? I don't have this competitive side of me. But I just don't have it. But back then, yeah. Like, I was ready to break legs the second the whistle went. I don't know why.
Yeah.
These are my friends. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah, but they're not friends anymore.
That's it. You're conditioned to that whistle. That's all it is.
Yeah.
As soon as there's a football on the floor and the whistle goes, it's like light bulbs switches.
Well, that's it. And I mean, I know you're very much more volleyball, Ross. We've sort of got into this. One more question. You said sort of you got to fix it at professional level, but do you not have to fix that at grassroots level to fix it at professional level?
I very much think these kids are super modeling their behavior on what they see on TV. I'm a big believer in that. I think, see, if you said, right, if you're getting a retrospective £50,000 fine for diving in the Premier League, or you're handing out more yellow and red cards for people talking back to the referee, like, it would sort it in like a matter of weeks, because teams would be finishing games for a couple of weekends with like 8 players. So you just wouldn't do it. But another thing as well is like parents on the sidelines, like abusing referees, like shouting at their own kids, shouting at other kids in the pitch. Like that also needs to change big time. Like they behave. I mean, I'm saying this like I've not got kids, so I could be the exact same when I get a little bit older. But like they behave at their kids' football game like they would behave at Ibrox or Celtic Park. It's again like absolutely frightening.
Do you find the parents are, well, just as, if not worse, than the kids?
Again, I think it's like a little bit of learned behavior for sure. Like, if your parent, like very much so, like if your parents are respectful and like talk to people, or even just outside a sporting context, like you'll take that on and you'll probably try and model that. But like if you're someone's dad or mum's shouting at the referee, like their kid probably thinks it's okay to do that as well. So it's about what you put across as being like acceptable, I guess, and how you model that behavior.
You do want to press your mom and pop, don't you? So like if they're doing something, you're like, oh well, that's the way forward. Yeah, for sure. That's nuts.
That's it.
Yeah, that's nuts. So you said that you've always been one of the tall guys. I mean, like Ross makes me feel small. Genuinely.
What height are you, Ross?
I'm 6'5", so I am generally one of the taller people. But then, if I rock up to like an international beach volleyball event, like I'm one of the smaller guys. Like it's scary. Like I'd be a tall girl in the women's competition. Really? Like there's some big chicks out there playing like blockers who are like 6'5", 6'6", in the women's game, and like I'm a blocker, so I kind of get away with it because I'm quite physical. I can jump a little bit. But there's boys playing on the World Tour who are like an average block height's probably 6'8". So there's a couple of boys who are 7 feet.
Oh my god, that's nuts! You've just made him shrivel, by the way, because you're 6'5". He's the opposite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've got a mate that's 6'5". My next year's straight anyway. So
what are you? 5'8".
Yeah.
But like it's like even when I knew Ross, that was the case. There was a boy, Oak, and well, his real name was Andrew, but he got called Oak because when he started playing rugby, folk would sort of, I can't even throw a rugby ball, it's tragic. And he always sort of seemed to get in the way. And there was a guy that started saying, it's like a big fucking oak tree getting in the way. So Oak and Ross would sort of be next to each other, like these two giants. Oak would be taller than you, wouldn't he? He was 6'6".
He's maybe a little bit taller than me, I think. So, yeah.
And
so it was always
around them,
Well, the worst bit was always it was me, Oak, who were like 6'5", 6'6", and then there was Rudy, who was like, I think he called himself 6 foot on a good day, but I think next to us he probably looked like 5'8". And he used to absolutely hate life. And we used to go out with each other like couple times a week into town or whatever, and just he would absolutely hate life. And after a few pints, there was times where he would just literally abuse us for being tall, and we would just kind of pat him on the head and like.
You're making a mess.
That's literally me. I've got a mate that's 6'2" and a mate that's 6'5" that I go out most of the time.
Do you know it's just soul destroying, man? We're talking about height. It's like you people lean back and it's like muscles in places I don't have places, and then I'm just sitting here like a bloody plum. Anyway, just soul destroying.
Over 6 foot though.
I am over 6 foot, yeah.
Yeah. Can't have it all, Willis. Can't have it all.
I can change. I just haven't.
Exactly.
That's on me. That's on me. We'll get into volleyball a bit more, I guess, Ross. First off, I think this is going to be daft. There'll be folk that listen, and I'd like to think I've got a pretty rough idea of how it goes. But how do you play volleyball? Like, what's the main rules of volleyball? Explain it to like a sort of for dummies type thing.
So you've obviously got two types of volleyball. You've got indoor volleyball, which is how I started playing, which is 6 people versus 6 people. So 6v6 indoor court. And then you've got beach volleyball, which I've kind of transitioned to and play like pretty much exclusively now, which is 2v2. So for me, beach volleyball is very much more difficult, because you've got less people to cover a similar area. Like, it's a smaller court, but it's still, in terms of a ratio, it's much less court to cover indoor. So you're on the beach, you've got more space to cover, and you're obviously running and jumping on the sand, which is extremely difficult, especially as most countries you play in are super warm. Like last week we were playing in Israel, and the game when we started was 37 degrees. And they're literally like hosing down the courts in between points and in between timeouts to keep it cool enough for us to play.
So you didn't burn your feet? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. So the sun just literally bakes the sand, and if you stand in the same place for too long, like you're getting burnt bottoms of your feet, and you're getting blisters and things like that. It's pretty gnarly.
I presume like you've kind of went into beach volleyball because you said before that you're kind of more one of the athletic ones rather than the really tall ones. I take it that's a kind of benefit if you're needing to cover more court.
It is a benefit, being like you kind of have to be athletic anyway. To be honest with you, the reason that I changed was literally there's just more opportunities. So for indoor volleyball right now, I guess the kind of easiest way to explain it would be that we are part of a league called Small Nations. And for indoor volleyball, we can only play those, I think there's like 10 countries. We can only play those teams. But if you play beach, you can play on the World Tour against any country and at any tournament, as long as you have the points to get in. If I was to liken it to another sport, it's kind of similar to like tennis. So you've got 3 levels. You've got the pro, elite. In beach volleyball it's called elite, which is the stuff that like in tennis Andy Murray, Djokovic would be playing. And then you've got a middle level called challenger, and then you've got a lower level called futures. So it's the same kind of setup, 3-tiered system, and whether you get into a tournament or not literally just depends on how many ranking points you've got. So there's no real barriers to playing international beach volleyball, other than you need the points to get into the tournament. But it's not like, as Scotland, we can only play against other countries or a sort of select few nations, which is really cool.
Is there a club set up as well as international?
So there is, but it's not like, again, it's not like football and rugby where clubs would compete against each other. To be honest with you, beach volleyball is mostly done, you would enter competitions as like a pair. So you and your partner would play in an event. So within the UK, there's like a tour called the UKBT, which is UK Beach Tour. And it's actually slowly getting bigger. They're slowly getting more sponsors, bigger events. And one of my good friends, Jake, he runs a tour, and that is something that's definitely going from strength to strength. So if you wanted to enter a UK Beach Tour event, you enter as a pair rather than as like a team or a club.
What sort of level are you at then? Where are you playing?
So right now we're playing futures internationally, which is the lowest level, and we're competing at like the top end of UKBT. So we're like one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the UK just now, and we're the only team probably out of the 4 or 5 in the UK that aren't full-time funded athletes.
I take it there's like it's exactly the same as tennis, I suppose, like males and mixed and females.
So there's actually no mixed as like an international game, but mixed volleyball tournaments are super popular. They're like a really big social thing, and it's how a lot of clubs around the world, actually, I guess, like from my experience, make their money. So I guess if you're thinking about it as a kind of pyramid hierarchy, like elite volleyball is like that top tip of the iceberg, but a lot of money from volleyball comes from like social recreational club people who want to play with their pals from work, or people who want to play mixed volleyball just to have fun and touch a ball. So you can't actually play competitive mix, but it is very much like an important part of the game. Yeah.
So maybe I'm misunderstanding this and I'm just being daft, but you would enter as that duo, but do you enter just as that too, or do you have like subs, or how does that work? Is it just you two?
So that's it. Literally, you enter as a pair, and that's it for that competition. Yeah,
that's intense. And then do you have like Ross and Wallace or whatever it is as your like main pair, or is there like a group of you guys that are sort of being picked?
So we would be McKelvey Curry. Got a nice ring to it. But yeah, so ultimately, I guess it kind of depends. Like in the UK beach tour, a lot of the guys who play so a lot of the pairs aren't from the same country, so they're not too bothered about playing with another English person, or they don't want to play. They're not too bothered about playing with another Spanish person, because in UKBT you can play, a Spanish person can play with a Polish person, or a Aussie guy can play with a New Zealand guy or whatever. So that's part of it. In general, most people in the UK tour they'll rotate partners. They like to play with other people. For me and my partner, we keep it the same purely because I think it's easier. You get to know your other half of your pair. You get to know their tendencies, blah blah blah. But also, when it comes to international, you have to play with someone from your country. So that decision's kind of made it a little bit easier for us in that perspective.
The thing that shocked me the most was the difference in team size. So, like, I mean, like, I just thought indoor volleyball, maybe the best way to say this is I just thought beach volleyball was indoor volleyball on sand. But that's a completely different game. So you've obviously only got, well, two positions, because only two folk in your beach game, but the dynamic must be so different. Tell us I'm the butchering this as a question, but what is the main differences working together? Because do you have is it zonally based, or how does that work?
So I guess the first thing you need to know would probably be that most teams will have one person who blocks, so they're up at the net trying to stop the ball get past, and then you've got one defender whose job it is to stop the ball hitting the sand in the backcourt. From there, the blocker and the defender are very much working off the same system or the same play, if you will. So the defender knows where the blocker is going to block, so what space they're going to take away from the hitter. And then it's the job of the defender to work around that, basically. So I'd say both are really tough jobs, but I think the blocker's probably got a more physically difficult job, and the defender's job is a little bit more about being clever and being tactical about what they show. So they might show the hitter one thing, they might be standing on one side of the court, and then when they hit the ball, they might make a switch and run to the other side of the court. So there's a lot of kind of show something and then do something completely different. But yeah, for sure, beach volleyball is way more about tactics, game plan, and indoor, it's a little bit more about you've got 4 hitting options in indoor, whereas beach volleyball, you've only got 1. So you can only set to your partner, really. But yeah, I think, that's the kind of easiest way to describe it, I think. But
so I'm pretty sure I'm basing everything I know here from Wii Sports Resort. Yeah, at least I admit I don't know what I'm talking about. I try my best. Okay? Right, I'm going to ask a very, very weird question, and I feel like this is one of those ones that's just really, you know how like when you were younger, I'm going to give you a bit of background here. In my head, quicksand was going to be a massive issue for me, right? I just thought I was going to die to quicksand. That or tetanus were going to kill me. Lockjaw was going to kill me, right? But this is a massive thing in my head, and I'm going to ask, and you're going to take the piss. Shut up, Ed. Stop laughing, okay? Leave it alone. I feel like I just explained what was on in my head. I think everyone has these thoughts, but they don't
Just ask
explain
the
it.
question.
Yeah, sure. So the question is, right? See how when you do the thing, you go like,
Yeah.
it makes you look like you haven't touched the ball. How do you do that? I could never manage. It was like, I don't know what happens.
So, for those of you watching on YouTube,
Some man, look at that.
Wallace just mimed what's called a volley. So that's where you play the ball above your head. Yeah. No, you're good. At least you remembered one of the shots from your high school volleyball
And
experience.
Spike, I remember Spike as well.
Yeah.
That was
Spike, okay. What was the third one? So you've got volley, which is above your head, spike to hit it over the net, and what was the one kind of below your chest?
You're actually going to be really impressed here because this is just came to me. Dig.
Nailed it.
Mate, you're all over it.
It's time for me to just walk out. That's me done that job for the day.
There you go.
Fair play.
Nice, man.
I
Good knowledge.
I didn't. I genuinely didn't. I just want to actually give myself credit for once. I genuinely knew that.
I would check his history, but I don't think I want to do that. So.
Whoa, wait a minute. Let's just check. This is dangerous.
I've the only really volleyball I've watched is kind of on the Olympics, like the beach volleyball through the Olympics and that. And I actually really got into it in I think it was the Brazil Olympics in 2016. Yeah, it was 2016. That was
Rio, sure. Yeah.
What? How kind of far away is that? Like, what's the kind of process to get into the Olympics?
9 years ago.
Yeah. So the actual process for a team to get into the Olympics, there's a couple of routes. So you can be ranked in the top 16 for either gender in the world. So top 16 teams get an automatic spot. They're in. You can win your continental qualifier. So the event we played in Europe, in Israel last week, was actually a Europe continental qualifier for the Olympics. We didn't win, sadly, so we are out. But there's 5 teams in each qualifier stage, and then they just kind of whittle down from there. But you can win your continental qualifier, so they have one of those for each continent, so Europe, South America, etc. You can get a wild card spot, so that's just where the host country picks a team to go into the Olympics. And then there's like also special spots reserved for like world champions, European champions, and then there's also one spot reserved for the host country as well. So if you are France in the next Olympics, you're going to get a team entered automatically. So there's a couple of ways to do it, but sadly that's not something that's on any UK team's radars. Like there's just way bigger volleyball countries out there that, like, to put it simply, there's too many countries where their football / rugby for us is volleyball or beach volleyball, and we just the United States for one, they're massive, but obviously big population. Brazil are really strong. Italy's really strong. To be honest, most countries really excel in both indoor and beach. Like it's just they kind of come hand in hand. So yeah, a lot of European countries are real strong. Germany's pretty good. Poland really strong. Like they're kind of the top ones, but there's a lot of countries that are really strong at the moment. Do you know what? Actually, for the guys, really random country that you probably wouldn't expect, but they've been at the top of the game for the guys for the last 5 years, maybe. Norway.
Oh no, I was going to be wrong.
What are you going to guess?
Albania. Just want to throw it out there.
Albania.
Who's better, you or the good lady?
Alice, my girlfriend Alice, is significantly better at beach volleyball than I will probably ever be. She's such a good beach volleyball player. It's frightening. she's levels above me, sadly, but she's had real good exposure to like coaching in New Zealand, and she also learned her trade in the States. She was a Div 1 NCAA college athlete, which is huge. It's basically like playing pro from the minute you kind of turn 18, which is an incredible opportunity that she had.
So you're at sort of futures level. Where is she in the women's?
Yeah. So Alice is like playing challengers, which is that middle, and then she's getting into some elite 16s, and her goal is very much to play the Olympics next year. Like if she gets into the Olympics, like she can call time in her sporting career and be like, yeah, I've ticked that box. That was what I've always wanted, and leave kind of very happy.
Is that, I don't mean say yes or no it's going to happen, but is that something that's definitely possible this year? Yeah.
It's definitely possible for Alice and her partner Shauna. Yeah, so they're working real hard just now. They're traveling a lot, but yeah, that's definitely on the cards for them, and is a real possibility.
Is she from New Zealand?
She's from New Zealand. Yeah, so she actually also has a British passport though, which is super helpful for her moving here. But yeah, she's from New Zealand originally.
Who's I asked Glenn this about the timber sports, and it's a question that I actually think is quite a clever question. Who's like your you know exactly what I'm going to say, don't you?
No.
All right, okay.
I was just laughing at you saying I think my question's quite a clever question.
I'm not really that confident in anything. I think this is quite cool. Who's like your Megan Rapinoe and the girls, and who's your Leo Messi and the guys in volleyball?
Oh, so for the guys, it's definitely one of the Norwegian guys that I asked earlier. I didn't ask anything earlier. The guys that I mentioned earlier, a guy called Anders Moll. He's one of the Norwegian guys. He's just like real tall, super athletic, does loads of cool stuff. He's like the Messi, Ronaldo. For the women, I'm slightly less clued up in the women. There's no like, I wouldn't say there's any like real head and shoulders above. There's a lot of women who are real strong. Off the top of my head, someone like, there's a girl from America called Kelly Clays, who's like my height, blocker, super athletic, and she just like absolutely dominates. But I also probably listen to this and be like, oh, I can't believe you said Kelly Clays. That's so stupid. Like, you missed out XYZ, who's like way better. But that she was the first one who came to my head.
Sorry, Kelly, if you're listening. Alice is not as strong. Yeah. You said something there. You're like, oh, he does cool stuff. That's something I never even assumed was a thing in volleyball. I just see it as make sure it doesn't hit the ground, get it over the net. Is there ways to be
trick shots?
Yeah, there's trick shots.
Yeah. So
is there trick shots in your game? Can they do
Nah. So this actually is a really clever question. Maybe just like a more timely question. So like the last year maybe, there's been like so much change, more so in the guys' side of the game, but there was these two really young kids who I think are maybe now about 21, but when they came onto the scene, they were about 18 or 19. And they like have completely revolutionized the way that men's beach volleyball is played. So if you imagine beach volleyball, or same as indoor volleyball, is each team has 3 touches. So you dig, you set, and the third one's usually hit over. These guys started hitting the ball over in 2. They started then like jumping, faking, hitting the ball in 2, and then setting their partner. Like they've just started doing all this crazy stuff that like just wasn't done. So they're now known as like the jump setters, because they jump, fake, and then will shoot the ball to their partner to hit. But because they've jumped on the second touch, the opposition team's blocker has quite a lot of the time jumped with them. So it gives their partner like an open net, and just it's so cool. And that's like the next big thing in beach volleyball is like trying to find tactics to play against that, and then just trying to kind of extrapolate that, I guess, and make that more accessible to big teams around the world.
Is that something that is just completely never been done before? Like it's brand new?
Yeah. So like if you watch these young kids play, like me and Alice have talked about this, like I can't really think in my time of a sport that has been changed by one team as much as this. Like I guess it's kind of like they obviously talk about like Barcelona, like tiki taka or whatever, but that's just kind of passing the ball really fast. Like this is something. It's as if someone's made up a completely new skill in football, like a new passing. Like they've just done something that has never been done before. And when they played teams for the first time doing these jump sets and really fast, shooty sets, like teams were literally just looking through the net and being like, what is going on here? Like, I don't know what to do against this. And they were just absolutely hammering teams for a good 6 months to a year before teams could actually cotton on to what was happening to them. It was crazy to watch.
The thing that sort of jumps out to me is the only thing it can be compared to is like Dick Fosbury with the high jump. You know, like everyone.
Yes, Fosbury flop. Yeah, absolutely.
That's nuts. And this is going to sound like such a volleyball uneducated question, but I assume a lot of people listening that don't know volleyball are going to say it doesn't seem like that much of a change. Why wasn't, because you know you've got 3 hits, make sure it doesn't hit the ground, set up, bang, fine. But why hasn't that been considered before? Why is that so new? Does that make sense? Because you know, listening to it, it doesn't sound like a massive change. I can see why it is, but why is it so new?
To be honest with you, I have no idea why someone hasn't done it. I think kind of knowing their coach a little bit, I think it's a lot to do with their coach. Like he was just like this super innovative guy who was like, yeah, go out there, try something new. Like if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But in terms of why someone hasn't done it before, I have absolutely zero clue. Why it works is just because it doesn't give the other team enough time to do anything. Like if you see someone jump on the second contact, especially when you've seen people hitting it over the net in 2, that blocker has to jump. They can't just not jump. So if you're halfway through your jump and then you see them change from going to a hit to setting the ball to their opponent, you're like hanging in midair like, oh no, I know exactly how this is going to end. And guys are just swinging on free nets. I'll send you a video after this. It's crazy.
That sounds really cool. It does, yeah.
That's so funny. I can just imagine like the first time these guys are doing it, and just guys watching them are like, "Why have we not done this before?"
You can just see cogs turning in people's heads. Like, A, why have I not thought of this? And B, I have no idea how to play against this. The equivalent I can give you from rugby is like, see when you see like Finn Russell or someone just like throw this mad dummy, and the defender's like ankles just absolutely break because they go with the pass and then he just cuts back inside. It's like that. Like they just commit, but then their space opens up somewhere else, and that's kind of the best example I think I can give.
And so what level are these guys playing at, Ross?
So these guys have came up through futures. As I say, they're real young, came up through futures, and they're now like winning elites. Like they are ridiculously young, and they're actually kind of following a similar trajectory to the Norwegian guys. So Scandinavia is really flying the flag for beach volleyball. Like the Norwegian guys, Moll and Sorum, they were like real young when they started getting good, like maybe 22, 23, and they've been at the top for like the last 5 years. Like they've been so consistent, won almost every tournament. And then at the end of last year, these 2 young Swedish guys have came through, a little bit younger, 20, 21, and they're like getting to finals consistently, getting to semi-finals consistently, and they've beat the Norwegian guys who are known as the Vikings for like the last couple of tournaments, which is real cool.
So these guys doing this new thing are Swedish?
Yeah. So the younger guys who are doing the new style play are Swedish, and the guys who are still young but a little bit older are Norwegian.
What is the sort of, you're saying 21 is like massively young, whereas in football it's young, but you certainly get players at that stage. What is the sort of volleyball age range?
So beach volleyball is actually way older. So at the last Olympics, the USA had a couple of guys who were like 40 who played for them. Purely because the like wear and tear in your body is not the same. So you're obviously doing a lot of jumping, but you're jumping on sand and landing on sand, so it's like super low impact. So you're not getting anywhere near the same level or quantity of injuries as a lot of other sports. So yeah, like that kind of leads to a bit of longevity, I guess.
Is there indoor and beach at Commonwealth and Olympics?
So indoor and beach in the Olympics and the Commonwealth Games, just beach volleyball. And that was purely because I think when it went to Australia to host last time, it was one of the kind of optional sports. So they chose to have it included because they're a strong Commonwealth beach volleyball country.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Is it just me that's kind of surprised that Scandinavia are good at beach? You know,
Yes.
I'm not saying you have to have the conditions in a country, but for the most part, Brazil are good at beach-based sports because it's a beach. It's a massive country without a beach, but you know, like it sort of leans itself to it. How? Maybe you don't know the answer to this, but why is that? That just seems like a really random.
What's quite funny? There was like I think like a Twitter thread or something, or like Reddit or something, and it was a picture of some warm country, say like, let's use Cool Runnings. It was like a picture of like a Jamaican guy who'd won like the skeleton at the Winter Olympics, and someone had just commented on it saying, "Oh, that's so stupid. That's like the equivalent of Norway being good at beach volleyball." And just like tons of people jumped on him and were like, "They actually are like world champions and have been for like 3 years." So like, shut up.
It's true though. I mean, the guy was wrong, but I get his point. You know.
Yeah. I don't think there's not really a strong history, but I think it's more about the individual teams. So the guy Anders Mol, his big brother and his little brother they come from like a big beach volleyball family. And I think like it just happened, like so many kind of athletes, even in Scotland, like they had beach volleyball courts at their school, like their dad's always been their coach. So I think it was like a little bit more about their circumstance than the country that they were born in, if that makes sense. So kind of similar to like an Andy Murray or something, like his mum's a coach, like he lives in Dunblane, there's heaps of tennis courts. It's kind of a perfect storm, I guess.
Yeah, there's two of them, I guess. Yeah, it's a very good point. Yeah. Sorry, you No. This, I guess, the answer for Alice would be different to yourself on this question. But is it a sport that you can make a living from?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It depends what level. I guess I would say yes, but only if you're in like the top 10%. Like there's a fraction of players making like real good livings, and it also probably depends what country you come from. Like if you come from America, you can be like not amazing, but you'll have like heaps of sponsorship deals, stuff like that. Whereas over here or even in Europe, it tends to be like companies will sponsor governing bodies. So let's say like SIAT, I think, sponsors like the Austrian Federation. So they'll sponsor and give money to the federation, but it won't be like Cristiano Ronaldo wearing like Nike football boots. So that top percentage will get a decent chunk of money and earn like a good living. The rest, there's just not the depth. Like it's not like, again, to use football, if you play in the Conference League, which would be like us, you're getting like £1,500 a week, which is still good money. Like it just doesn't filter down particularly well. So even for winning a futures event, you're getting like £1,000. For winning a challenger, you're maybe getting £8,000, and for winning an elite, you might get 20. But that's also divided by 2, and it's a lot of it goes towards like travel, flights, blah blah blah.
And how often is that?
So there's maybe And see, to be honest with you, for me, this is the big problem with this new structure in beach volleyball. There's not enough tournaments. So the reason that it works for tennis is that you have an elite, a challenger, and a futures like every weekend, pretty much. So the tournaments basically sort themselves out. So the top 100 goes to the elite, the top 100 to 200 goes to the challenger, blah, 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 and it filters down. But there's a real shortage of tournaments. So tournaments get really stacked really quickly. And there's maybe only 10 elites a year, so maybe one a month it works out as. Maybe a few more challengers and then like a few more futures, but they definitely just need more events. But it can be hard to persuade countries to put on events when they're not really money makers ultimately.
Understandable,
which is a shame. But it is understandable.
And I guess probably the only other thing I've really got left in volleyball is in football. Obviously, there's massive disparity between the men and women's game. The change in the women's game in the last decade has been phenomenal. Like I think it was Arsenal PSG in the semi-final of the Women's Champions League, and it was something like 2,500 was attendance in 2013, and then it was like 52 this year. Yeah, which is brilliant. Like, and there is there's the, I would say, sort of uneducated opinion of women should be on the same money. I disagree until it becomes as big a product, because if the money's not there, the money's not there. That's quite simply what it is. There's a lot of
need to bring in the money.
Yeah, of course. There's an onus on the sort of FIFA, UEFA, whoever, to make that happen and promote that sport and promote it. And we're speaking about grassroots and professional level, promote that at grassroots. I said earlier intentionally that, the main thing in Scotland for boys is football and rugby. Certainly in my school, football was not pushed for girls, and that was wrong. Like it really wasn't. It was hockey or pretty much it, in fairness. But my question is women and men on a par with each other? Is it the same game or not?
Beach volleyball, in terms of viewing figures and kind of media stuff, I think it probably is the same. You could ask Alice, she might give you a different answer, but I think at the top level, it's pretty evens in terms of how many people watch, blah blah blah. Some of that might be because the women's game, like there's like really good looking women wearing bikinis to play. Like
you're right,
that's just a part of it.
Yeah.
For example, and I know like a lot of companies will purposefully ask girls to like put sponsorship on like their bikini bottoms on their bum or their crotch or whatever, and some girls are like, absolutely, like give me the money, or very much the opposite way and are like, nah, like that's not me, I need money, but like keep it. So that is definitely a part of it, that perhaps viewing figures might be even higher for women than men for part of that reason. But definitely at the top level, like the games, the physicality is different, but the quality of the volleyball on display is definitely way more similar to like a football or a rugby, for sure.
That's good.
Which I think's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that advertising place it's in is quite sad, but I was kind of hoping you'd maybe take a wee advert on your bottom. I'd watch that.
Mate, absolutely. Throw some numbers at me. RTK podcast.
Here, that would be really funny. Actually, that'd be quite cool. Just like R2K with OSS WR. It's a shame that's how it is, though. And like we're talking about money, like it's not a game you're going to become a multi-millionaire from. So it's kind of exploiting that, which is a shame. But here, it's good to hear sort of from a quality perspective and a sort of viewership. They're pretty similar. I always like to hear that. But obviously, it's not a thing that creates you a sort of massive income. So what is the career at the minute?
So I'm going. I'd say I've just had a year off, but I'm going back to work in August. So back to school to teach in August. But as you I mentioned at the start, I'm also a coach, a PT, an online and in-person PT. And to kind of link those two together, that was why I started that kind of side hustle, for want of a better term, although it's taken over a little bit more in this year. But I basically started that business to fund my volleyball travel and expenses, and it's kind of grown from there. So I get a good wage as a teacher, but a lot of these volleyball trips, as you can probably imagine, are in pretty exotic locations, and it's not exactly a Ryanair flight across the channel to some of these destinations, you know.
Imagine. And tell us a bit, because getting into teaching is a thing a lot of folk want to do. I'm in teaching of sorts, not of sorts. I'm in teaching, but it's slightly different.
What are you suggesting?
Wait a minute. We've heard this already. I just said the wrong thing, and here we are again.
Every time you bring it up as well, isn't it?
You're teaching, they're not learning.
Probably teaching. Continue on, you go. You just don't need me here, do you? But I mean, basically, my point was my route was different. I never trained as a teacher. Yeah. Now I have, but I never trained as a teacher. But that's different for schools. So what's the process to get into the position teaching at high school?
So I guess you've got two main paths. So you can go, once you leave sixth year, you can go to uni and you can study a 4-year teaching course. So for PE teaching, I think the options are only Edinburgh Uni and Stirling Uni. So you can study a 4-year course, or the kind of second alternative would be you study some kind of degree related to the subject you want to teach, and then you do a 1-year postgrad PGDE year, where you become qualified as a teacher. After both of those, you then do an NQT year, which is basically you get a job for a year and you're technically a teacher, but there's still this 1 year that you need to pass and tick all the boxes off for.
I did not know about the first option. No.
So 4-year course?
Yeah, Jim didn't know it was a thing. So what's that called?
That would just be I guess PE teaching, physical education teaching, or whatever, English teaching, yeah.
What made you want to get into PE teaching?
I guess, like, as I've kind of touched on, like, I've had a real passion for sports, like not just one thing in particular, but all sports since I've been real young. My parents kind of pushed that in me, and just I thought, like, I always knew I wanted to be in sports, or some kind of job where I can help people, and I think it's as simple as that. Also, I think when you get into the postgrad teaching program, like, it's an opportunity you need to take because it is so competitive. Like, there can be 300 or 400 people going for, I think the year I was there was 15 places. So it's kind of one of those ones that's like, if you get in, you are a real strong candidate, and you kind of need to take that opportunity.
That's mad. Yeah. I didn't realize it was that, because
there's a lot of people, like, when I was at school, that's kind of the route they wanted to go down. It's a very popular, like, course to start with, at least.
Exactly. Also, there's just, I think, a lot more courses kind of feed into it, if you will. Whereas, like, if you're going to go and say do postgrad English, there's probably not that many uni courses that kind of filter down into English teaching. You're probably doing English Lit or something along those lines, but there's probably not a kind of wide variance of courses.
You enjoy the masters, or is it a masters? PG Dip, did you say? Sorry. Did you enjoy that?
I've not done a masters. I did really like my PGDE. Yeah. So I have a few masters credits, but I don't have a master's degree. I loved it. So I studied at UWS in Ayr, which at the time I think was the best uni in the UK for PGDE education, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. It's like super intense, but very practical and like placement driven. So I think we got something like 18 weeks of placement over the year. broken up with kind of small blocks of essays and kind of in uni stuff, but it suited me down to the ground because I was like so heavily practically based. I wanted to be out teaching. I wanted to be out learning from other really good teachers, and it's literally that's what the course is you get so much time, practical time in the classroom and in the gym hall for us, which I think is why it works so well.
You've obviously been out for a year. Are you looking forward to getting back to it?
I am looking forward to getting back. I'm definitely not looking forward to getting back, put it that way. Yeah, I see. To be honest with you, I think if I worked in a different school, I could see my feelings being very different. But the reason that I am in my school and the reason that I'm keen to go back is because of the staff that are in our PE department. Like, they are, like, shout out Irvine Royal PE department. They're just so good, and like as a collective group, we are like real good friends. Like, we help each other. I think a lot of people might think that every department would be like that or should be like that, but that's like definitely not the case. So I think I'm very lucky to have that workplace that provides such a good environment to be in every day.
That's class. That's really nice to hear, because you do hear people say, like, I don't want to say they say what their team are working isn't great, but the amount of people I've heard that, oh, there's this issue with a boss or this issue with a colleague or whatever, and they never get the experience. Like, I know the job I'm in, like, my team's insane and I can't say how good it is. And that just makes the experience positive for you, for your students or pupils, should say. Yeah, that's nice to hear. That's nice to hear. Tell us about the PT side and plug Work It Out. Go for it. You're already plugging it the whole time. Maybe just subliminally. Go on, show us the t-shirt. Show us. Yeah, good man.
There you go. I also run my PT / coaching business, and I say PT so people know what I mean. But like, when I think of PT in my head, I just think of some like dude standing in the gym and like trackies counting bench press reps. But that's like so old school. But yeah, so I also coach and run a company called Work It Out Fitness. So as I say, that's something that I started to fund beach volleyball, but has in the last year, when I've had the time to do so, has just like grown so much. Like, I transferred a lot of my in-person clients to online. I've had to learn heaps of skills to keep them going and give them the same experience that they were getting in person. And it's kind of just grown arms and legs. I've grown in terms of how many clients I've got signed up with me. I've grown in terms of my knowledge. I've grown in terms of, as you guys will know, hosting a podcast, like, there's always an easier way to do something, or there's always better technology, or there's also always this app that makes things easier. And yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I think it'll actually be really positive for going back to work. I've got a few things in the holster just to like walk back into the PE department and be like, hey, did you know about this? Because I can make this job that we do every day like so much easier if we just use this. So yeah, I think off the back of this year especially, it's Work It Out has definitely grown arms and legs, which I love, and I'm super passionate about it.
Can I just give you a very tragic, very Wallacey motto? It's grown arms and legs, and what we do is grow arms and legs because they get muscles. You had a question?
Just gonna write that. I'll stick it on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Please do. I'll fund it.
What? So see, obviously, like, if like someone's going into PT, the likes of, if I was wanting to be a PT, I'd need to do like the coaching badges and that for it. Do you still have to do them, or are you all right because of your PE teaching background?
So you still do need to do it. You still need your PT level 3, and your two basic qualifications: gym instructor level 1 and 2, and then PT level 3. So you do need those to be a certified PE teacher, I guess. So yeah, it's kind of separate from teaching. I got mine through uni. They offered us a discount because we were obviously like sports related students. So I did my first way back like 9 years ago, and then I did my PT more recently, but I've had those qualifications for a while.
And do you work like out of a specific gym, or is it just kind of whatever the clients are at?
It kind of depends. So my parents have actually got a gym in their garage, so I use that a lot. And then I work out of my own gym that I go to as well. And then the rest are kind of online. And I'm right now prioritizing that switch to get as many people online as possible. And it's not for everyone. But I think there's so many benefits that people can get from online coaching for, let's be honest, like a fraction of the price. Like the price of in-person PT obviously varies depending on where you stay, but it is crazy. Like Ayr, which is like a small town, your average PT session is probably £30 an hour, which is crazy.
Yeah, you can't sustain that.
Nah.
Like doing that like 3-4 times a week is just not possible.
Because I like to get in a PT, and like I think it'd be fair to say I'm on a wage above the average, and like I was like, I can't do this forever. Like I did it twice, and I was like, oh, it's giving me a bit of an idea. And then I completely forgot everything they said, and then you helped me a lot online. Like it's but I don't know how I'm trying to ask this. Is there like a ceiling as to how many? Because I think you sort of look at online, yeah, and you're like, oh, you can just have thousands of clients, but you can't. You're still dedicating a lot of time to these people with sort of like, I take it they send you videos and they're like, oh, Ross, how's this? I know I did, and you said, well, it's that shit. This is how you do it.
What was it with?
It was. He didn't say shit, but he said this needs a lot of work because he's worked.
No, what was the movement?
Romanian dip.
All right, okay.
And
Tricky one, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think
What we do with
dumbbells.
Yeah, it's easier with dumbbells.
All right, okay.
No, I'm saying it's better with dumbbells.
Oh, see,
it's a better movement.
Yeah. I just couldn't get it to not hit my knees. Anyway, it was very difficult for it. Don't look down and try to work out how that happened, Ed. I saw that. We're not all gifted like you, Pierce. Shut up! I hate this, right?
Right, you go and try.
Please. How much time? You must have to dedicate a lot of time to these clients. Like, how does that work? How does that work?
So yeah, I think actually to kind of touch upon your first bit where you said you did a couple of PT sessions, like you got your workout with them and then they probably told you a couple of things and then you went away feeling quite good, but then you'd forgot it by the time you went home or by the time it came to implement things. I think that's like a massive, maybe not misconception, but thing that people miss. So when you pay for an in-person PT and you pay that, let's say Ayr and Dumfries, £30 an hour. If someone's listening in London, it could be £60 an hour. But anyway, they pay that £30 per hour. You're paying for that hour. But what actually gets you the results in terms of weight loss, blah, 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 is the other hundreds of hours of the week. It's being in that PT session will not make or break your results, but your habits in terms of other exercise, steps, nutrition, blah, 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 that you're doing away from that PT session is what makes the change and what makes the results. And that's where an online coach comes in, because you're basically in their pocket. You're a message away. And like most gym-based coaches, unless you're paying them extra, will not do that for you. So that's very much the difference. And I think the part that people don't think about when they think online coaching.
That's true.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like a more holistic approach. Whereas you go to a gym, you get a PT, like it makes sense and is commonly accepted for obvious reasons that you're there to show you how to lift weights, to show you how to whatever, do the exercise side. There's no assistance to nutrition or general lifestyle and balance and that sort of thing. And that is also tricky in that, you know, you've been working out for however long, and yes, you've been eating well, but you've had a sort of focus on you for your profession, volleyball. For a PT, that's quite tricky. You have to then learn more than just how to exercise correctly. You need to know nutrition, and that's not something you just know. Like there's experience required there, so there's almost more. That must be quite tricky to learn, or did you already sort of know that stuff anyway?
I think that a lot of the nutrition stuff, I would probably admit that I picked up based on me. Like when I was 16 or 17, again, there's like a photo of me on Instagram. I think I was a 41-inch waist. So I was big. Like, and I think right now I'm like a 32 or 34. So I did go through that phase of, and like, don't get me wrong, like I never looked really big because I was tall. So I kind of got away with it and could hide it a little bit, but I did lose kind of 10 inches off my waist at one point. So I did that all through myself, and I learned about calories in, calories out, like calorie deficit, all that kind of stuff. So I think I can empathize a lot of the time with the people that I'm working with if weight loss or fat loss is their goal.
Yeah.
Are you just looking for this photo loss?
I realised I don't follow your personal account on my brand account, so I can't see it. There's a 41 waist. I'm probably like 59 or something like that.
Absolutely not. It's one of them things that I think a lot of people try and go to the gym and they don't see a difference in like 2 weeks, but they've actually been eating more because they think they can because they've been to the gym. They're actually putting on weight, and then they just give up because they're not seeing the improvements. But it's like nutrition is like 80% of the battle, and it's
absolutely.
I did that.
So, honestly, like 90% of people, that's obviously just a guess, but I would say I'll do that and I'll go to the gym 5 or 6 times a week. And either way, if they're trying to get bigger, they won't be eating enough, or if they're trying to lose weight, they will not be in a calorie deficit. And no matter what you're doing in the gym, if you're not, nothing will happen.
Yeah, well, that's it. And like, I mean, you guys are very much, you are fit, like it's quite clear, but I'm at the stage where I'm sort of in the first year of trying to get better. And yes, I've lost weight, but the challenges of like 1 minute I'm like, right, I'm working out and I'm walking a lot. Walking's very much been the main thing I've done. But I'm like, fuck, I'm still eating shit. And like trying to get that balance was a major struggle. And I think having that person on the phone just to be like, just chat you through it. And I mean, I'm really lucky personally. Like I've had folk like yourself, both of you have sort of given me tips throughout. There's other folk, Jay, Brogan, loads of folk I could mention. Jack, Jamie, whatever, that have sort of given those little tips, and just having those a little thing, maybe 3 times a week, is so much more than what will probably be a situation where you're like, oh, I've got PT tonight and they're going to be whatever, and that's almost demoralizing. Like if you're not hitting that like massive intensity on that whatever night, I would really struggle with that personally.
It's just accountability, absolutely. So if there's people listening who maybe want to make a difference the way they look and they don't want to pay for a coach, that would be my first step. I would say tell people, and that's a massive reason for why people fail, even if they do have a coach. People around them don't know what they're trying to do. So it's like, oh, Wallace is trying to lose weight, but you've not told, like, let's say you still live at home, you've not told your mom and dad, so they still buy the same shopping, and like the fridge is full of chocolate and like the cupboards are full of biscuits and crisps and stuff. So there's no one to hold you accountable, and your environment is so much worse for you to then try and do what you're trying to do. Even like friends, just tell your friends, like, look, next couple of weeks, like I'm going on holiday, like I'm trying to cut some fat, blah blah blah, and then they know, right, if we want to hang out, like I maybe shouldn't ask her to go for coffee and a cake, or I shouldn't ask him to go out for a pint or whatever, So I think that's another massive thing, making people aware of what you're trying to do. Like you've obviously said to your friends, like, here's what I'm trying to do. I need help with this, that, and the other. But so they're very much clued in on what you're trying to do. And I think that's a massive benefit to what you've tried to do.
You made a good point to me though, and it helped a lot. Like that was probably, I don't know, September time, and I only really started in August. And I think you actually posted a photo of mine on like your Instagram, or not a photo of mine, like a message of something I'd sent you, where I was like, I'd always wanted to be in shape, but never wanted to be in shape. Like I was if I could go bang and suddenly I've got a 6-pack, ideal. But And I think that I assume that is the mentality of millions. And I was and then at this stage, I was like, right, I actually want this. And you sort of said a thing to me, Ross, and I know it's a thing that not you've just said. I know millions of folks say this, like you can't just focus on that outcome. Because if you focus on that, what is probably going to be an unattainable outcome for 99% of people, you're never going to get there. But if you get to this stage where you're like, you actually enjoy the process, you enjoy being fitter, then that's the biggest tip I had.
Because for like 99% of people, like having a six pack on the daily is actually incredibly bad for them.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
They're at a body fat where they won't be enjoying life. So you'll have got to this stage, or you get this six pack. Like bodybuilders, like it's so fake because all their Instagram photos, they'll take them all in one day.
You did a very good video about that, actually.
Yeah. Where they went down to this like 3% body fat and they look so shredded, and they just take 100 different photos in 100 different settings, and they just post it over the next 3 months until they can next get to that phase.
See, I didn't know that was a thing. Until you, I knew like sort of playing or whatever, but
mate, that's the thing. Like two things there, like two great points. Like the first thing, like your whole having like an aesthetic goal is like it's such an unwinnable game. Like I guarantee you, Ross, if you got to like unbelievable shape, like got a six pack, had like a nice big chest, like big shoulders, blah blah blah, you would get to that point and be like, I want more.
Of course I would.
I want bigger shoulders. So it's super demoralizing, or it can be, that you do all that hard work and then you get there to like, if I'd offered you that like 2 years ago, you'd have bit your hand off. But by the time you get there, it's like, nah, I want bigger shoulders, or right, okay, like my upper body's real good, but I'm not happy with my legs, and you just start to pick everything apart. So that's why like when it becomes real outcome orientated, you're just never going to win. And then the second thing that you picked up on, Ed, like people compare themselves to like the worst people to compare themselves, like just purely because most people are on like Instagram all the time, and like they follow Lululemon or they follow Gymshark or whatever, and it's like, why is 25-year-old whoever who works in an office job in Ayr comparing themselves to like somebody who models for Gymshark, whose job it is to be massive and ripped? Like that's not an accurate comparison. Like literally all that person has to do all day is go to the gym and like eat appropriately, and that's their job. And like Ed says, go to the gym, you shred down, you take 1,000 photos and you change your outfit 10 times, and you spread those photos out over the course of 6 months. But everyone thinks that photo's from right now, and they probably don't look like that all year round.
Yeah, so see this guy here, he's from Dumfries.
Okay, yeah.
That's actually me.
And I got the same physio as him. And I went to the physio one night, and she said, and really late getting in. And she said, oh, sorry I'm late, but I had him in just before. And when she was finished with the session, he was just getting rubbed down. And then he literally just sat up. And this was 3 days before his competition. And he sat up and fainted.
Is that because of low body fat?
Because of
Is it? Shit.
Yeah.
So what body fat percentage is someone like that?
He's out of breath walking. Like he's absolutely
Preach it's this.
No, it's mad, isn't it? Like sure, it both ends the scale.
Yeah.
What's the body fat that'll be like what, 5, do you think?
Yeah, I was gonna say 5 or below. Yeah. But he looks the epitome. He looks the epitome of health. That's what a healthy person, or like a fit quote unquote fit person looks like that.
I bet he's not
fit. Yeah, he's definitely not. He definitely will be fit.
And to your point, he's done phenomenal. I've always followed the bodybuilding scene. I think it's insane. But like, I was going to ask you this because Ronnie Coleman on Rogan said like at peak he was at 0.3% body fat. From what I understand, that's just not true. Or is that possible? Yeah, no, it's just
I wouldn't think so. I mean, he is ridiculous, but I'd struggle to believe.
It's definitely.
I think you'd die.
I don't think so. Like maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
but I don't know enough about bodybuilding to like be like definitely that's the case. But I would strongly doubt it.
If like you would die unless you were ad lib eating, consistently ingesting food because you'd have no store, surely. Unless you would start.
But that's all. That's
Sorry.
all. That's all bodybuilders do, though. Like they eat religiously on a schedule, like an eating schedule, and that's their life. Like, and do you know what? If that's for you, fair enough. It's definitely not for me. But like, right, the clock's at 3:00, right? I need to eat. The clock's at 5:00, right? I need to eat. The clock's at 7:00, I need to eat, etc., etc. And like, that's your day. And there's,
Maybe I am a
there's a gap.
No, I'm joking. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, like, but some of these people, I don't know how many will do it, but like that'll take steroids, but they'll coach people and like that aren't on steroids, and they're like, so how am I not getting the results that you are?
Yeah,
well, you're not taking the risk of taking them things. But I know he does a lot of coaching, and he's quite open about it personally.
Yeah.
But there'll be a lot that aren't about going and taking steroids.
There's some famous names that aren't there? Like the famous one's that Michael Hearn, who's like 54 or something like that, and like that guy, absolutely cut. And he's never admitted to it, but everyone seems to think it's true. That guy, Liver King, who's like the Instagram guy who eats the liver, but he's came out now. Yeah. Well, he never came out. Basically, a guy that
he got rumbled. He got rumbled for
one of the guys who's buying it. Yeah. And he came out and he was like, "I fucked up." I'm not gonna lie, like I absolutely love watching these videos, man. He's so nuts, like. But I spoke to him. I spoke to him, by the way. Yeah. Genuinely, I was like, "Oh, do you want to come to the podcast?" And he responded. He was like, "I can't." But how cool! I spoke to him. I love it.
That is cool.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, just after you said he's so famous.
I love him. He's so
great guy.
Just
top lad.
For sure, yeah.
Fake advertisements, not great. And it's so common as well. Like you'll see 16-year-olds and they're like, "Oh, I want to be like that," and then they're like, "Oh yeah, you just give me £100 a month and I'll get you like that, no problem." Yeah. But it's really just.
But that's another thing. Like, even if you're like 16 and you want to look like Liver King, even if he was like natural, they think like that'll happen in a year, 2 years, 3 years. Like, it's absolutely stupid. Like, someone asked me, like, I'm saying this like I get asked all the time. Like, one person recently in the gym came up to me, like a young kid, and was like, "Oh, like, how can I get to look like you?" And I was like, "Go and train every like 4 times a week and lift weights and come back and see what you're like." And I don't think that's what he expected me to say. I think he expected me to give him like 5 movements to do like for 6 months and then come back and he'd look like that. But yeah.
You said the exact same, you might not remember this, you said the exact same thing to me about 9 years ago. I'd started going Citadel and you were really helpful, and I was just like, "What is it you do?" And that is the exact response you gave me. And to the point now that like I am hardly the picture of fitness, not by any stretch, but I've lost a fair chunk of weight. And at work, some 4 or 5 people in the last couple of months have said like what's the secret? And I'm like, walking 100k a week. You know, like you just do the work. Like it's such a boring answer, but until you get to that mentality where you realize that is the answer. Like there's no probably if I went on and checked my history, it would be like get quick, get fit quick. That, which in fairness, I forgot to tell you my history. The last thing was, when is Ramadan? Don't know why that was don't know why that was important to me, but that was the last.
Can you drink Slim Fast on Ramadan?
But the thing is, I think some people will think that like walking 100k a week is the important part. The important part is how many calories you're consuming while doing that, though, because the only reason that works is because you're increasing how many calories you're burning in a week. Yeah,
like I haven't seen much of change in the last couple of weeks because I've been eating terribly. I know I have been back at shows and I've been doing whatever, but
as long as you know that, though, that's the thing.
Yeah, you've got like
if you're looking at the scales and thinking, why is it not moving? That's the demoralizing
scales forever. But like, I think it's personally the way it works for me is I'm also very comfortable in the position to be like, I don't mind having a few pints. I don't mind having a burger. I don't mind getting a pizza here and there.
I'm the same.
If I was, yeah, exactly. And if I wasn't like that, I would really struggle with it. Really struggle.
Yeah, like I'll be working for 6 days in the week, and then being able to enjoy my weekend. You know, like just kind of earning it.
There's 2 days at the weekend. That'd be 9. That'd be 8.
Yeah, but
yeah.
I don't go out on Fridays.
Okay, fair.
Saturdays. Hence why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. No, here, Ross, man. It's always fun. I love, like, obviously different Fred, but I love sort of chatting to someone that you know quite well, but like sort of seeing the proper different side. I mean, the real side Ross and I have seen of each other is, well, it's basically beer.
Yeah. Well,
but
mate, last
amen to that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're absolutely.
Last time I saw you, I was out for breakfast with Alice, and I saw you, and I was like, oh man, like I'm gonna have to order something pure healthy now.
Puv was one of my best mates at uni, and he went to Belmont the same as you, didn't you, Ross? And we were sitting into like, he was, you just don't get cooked. He lives in Canada. You just don't get cooked breakfast here in Canada and all that sort of thing. He was like, we've got to go studio. What's it called? Studio cafe?
Stage door.
Stage door. Yeah. And he was, I've got to go there because you can get like a 15-piece breakfast. Ross comes over, and I've got like 19 cows worth of calories in my plate. Like it was good to see them. But I mean, the time we really got to know each other, I always remember this. You won't remember this, but the second time was probably we walked around like half of Butte. You guys did a fundraiser, and yeah, I don't remember much about it. I just remember a old guy in one of the pubs in Rothsay called Jamie with a beard, and holding hands with Harry Warburton for an hour. That's all I remember of that weekend. Like it was a mad time, but we were going up to a varsity competition at Oakridge.
Yeah, rugby. I remember that.
Yeah. That was lethal. I had a 24 pack of Fosters over the course of that day. Like I can't do that now. I can really have one.
Yeah,
like if it's Pornstar Martini or nothing. Like.
Did it used to be able to have
what?
He could drink. He could knock it back, mate. It was like, look at the size of him. One beer.
I was bigger then, man. I was bigger then.
Oh, mate, he was so much bigger then. One beer didn't touch the sides.
And I think the worst one was the 3/4 bottle of Absolute vodka for Puv's 21st that we had at mine. And he he's got shops, like he owns the Spar at Georgetown.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Like it was where I live, like 100 yards away. But he just brought all this sort of out of date drink, and we just went heavy for it. And I was I poured like quarter of this Absolute out, poured some blackcurrant juice and some lemonade in, and I drank it, and I was in crutches, and I gained the ability to walk. Like it was nuts.
It's like I actually feels quite good with weight on it.
It's fine.
Yeah, but the next day though, wow. Something the next day though.
I wouldn't say the fine I had to pay or who to that night, but the story I was going to say that I remember, I was sat next to you, and you were like, "Is this just what farmers do?" Because we were on the bus up to that thing, and there was like a random crop in a field. And like, I can't remember what it was. Oak, Rooney and I are like, yeah, I think it's that. It's definitely. And he's like, is this just what you weirdos do all the time? And that was the first time I really spoke to you. But yeah, friends for 9 years, as you said. It's nuts that time flies by like that. But first off, thank you for coming on. Hope you've enjoyed it yourself.
Mate, I've loved it. It's been good having a chat, having a giggle.
That's what we like to hear. That's what we like to hear. But there is one question before we go. And we asked the question that Glenn gave us for you, and you decided to buy a dog. If you had a question for our next guest, who is either going to be, do you remember Josh Banks, Ross? He was in RBM.
I don't. I was going to say if I have some context, but nah, I don't remember. Don't remember him now.
So he works for he's in sales for a company called ProDrive that deal with like sort of elite vehicles. Quite a cool place.
Okay.
Teslas and stuff like that. So it's either going to be him, a comedian, or what was the other person I said? I'd arranged a few things at once.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's going to be for a person. What would the question be?
If you were going to do another job from the one that you do now, what would you do and why?
That's a belter. Do you want to try that? Do you want to try and do that? I think I know it.
Go for it then.
It would require skill that you're pretty good at, but not quite there, I guess. Is it not be a rugby player?
Yeah, I mean, probably, yeah. I would probably go down the route of that, like physio, PT, that type of sport kind of way is probably the way I'd probably go if I wasn't farming. What about yourself?
Why do I have to do this to myself? There was only one thing I ever wanted to be. Let me tell you, it was not an agricultural lecturer. It was.
I was going to say.
It was.
That sounds pretty awful.
Here, best job. Absolutely love it. I can't imagine what do you want to be? Fireman, astronaut, agricultural lecturer.
Yeah.
A WWE wrestler.
Just sound about that and send it to SRUC.
Yeah, for sure. That's it. Yeah. John, if you're listening,
a job.
A WWE wrestler.
Yeah.
And I
could see that.
I know you.
I can see that.
You went to school with one. Noam Dar.
Yeah, I did actually. Noam was the year above. Noam was the year above me at school. Also, good note to end on. My cousin used to go out with Drew Galloway.
Oh, really? That's class. That's amazing. Do you know him? Do you know Sean McCluskey?
I don't know. This podcast is just going to be full of you asking me if I know people and me saying no. But
the reason to say he did like sort of.
Yeah, I didn't watch Up, so it's alright.
You loser. Sean, he was in like my year, but in like media studies or something like that. And from what I remember, his mum is he's now Drew McIntyre's agent.
Right. Okay. Okay.
But Drew's. So speaking of sort of getting fit and stuff, like. When he was in WWE back in 2010, like this proper nerd side here, Vince McMahon, sort of owner, CEO, head of talent relations and all that sort of. Oh my god, that sounded so tragic when I said that. Brought him into the ring, was like, this guy's the future. He's going to be WWE champion, right? Scottish guy, never been a British champion before, unless you include sort of Southern Ireland. And he was like, it's going to happen. And then basically over the course of the next 4 years, like his trajectory just went down. He sort of put on a bit of weight, like, but was not in good shape. Like, look up Drew McIntyre 2010. And like, he just didn't look good at all. And then he sort of went on the indie scene, which is like just fight and wrestling, whatever you want to say, all over the world.
Fight Club.
yeah, exactly. That's it. What happens? And then sort of created this like mad sort of following on the indie scene. Came back to WWE, and he is. Have you seen him now, Ross? Like, oh my god!
I honestly don't follow wrestling at all. What's his name? And like, what's his wrestling name?
It's
not like
Drew
the Flying
McIntyre.
Scotsman or something. Is it now Drew McIntyre?
Yeah, and he's called the Scottish Psychopath. But like, so like that, he was in good shape there. Like genuinely, like he put on a lot of weight after. I tell you what, he put on a lot of weight after that, and he was in a thing called 3MB. And there was these three guys. They were just sort of like joke characters, and like he looked good for a normal person, but like that was him there. And he probably put on like a fair chunk of weight after that.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah.
And then now, like I've seen some what do you call it, like transformations in my time, but the guy is insane now. That's him now.
Yeah,
like he must have put on about 20 pounds in weight, like muscle mass. Like he's
oh
huge.
wow, okay,
yeah. Like that happened like 5 years. But no, thank you for coming on, Ross. What was the question? Oh yeah, if you could be any job that you're not in now, I'll pass that on to the next one.
What about yourself? If you weren't in the job you're in now,
do you know what? If I wasn't a teacher, I know I like run my own business right now, but I would definitely give that a go full time with. Whether it's in fitness or whether it's in something else, like I think entrepreneurship's so cool, and like I think it's such a challenge but so rewarding. So I definitely go for running my own business of some kind.
Love it, man.
Nice.
Love it. Nice. No, perfect. Here, it's my pleasure having you on. As we said, Ross, thank you for coming on. For those of you listening, I hope you've enjoyed it. God, that's here. we must have been here for like almost 2 hours, not quite, like an hour and 3/4. It sort of flies by, but thank you for listening. I don't know who the next guest is. This will sort of just be after Highland Show now. This is coming out, so I'll be able to be off work for 6 weeks. Sorry to everyone that isn't, and trying to get sort of ahead of things. And yeah, I know, get ahead of things and try and get some more podcasts filmed over my sort of quieter time. So hope you're enjoying the podcasts. I should probably start saying now, with A-Plan, our sort of primary sponsor on the food and farming side, I'm doing a few sort of live podcasts at various shows throughout the season. First one's going to be Perth show, which is 5th of August. So come say hello. Maybe you'll get interviewed, have a little chat with me. Maybe Ed will be big time enough soon enough that he can join on soon. But
not Perth show. That's the free show.
That's the free show.
That's
yeah,
the free
no
show.
chance.
No.
But yeah, thanks for listening, Ross. Thanks for coming on, and we shall speak to you later on.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.